All right, Lorii. Well, welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining. Tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of what you do now.
Hi, everyone. First of all, it's great to be on the podcast with you, Mav. I love your face. So, my name is Lorian. I go by Loriipops online, and I've been a content creator since January 2015. So, I've been in it for a while.
Oh,
First game I
gee.
ever streamed, yeah, first game I ever streamed was Destiny, and it's where I met Mav in the directory, and yeah, I guess what am I doing now? Things have really progressed from then to now. It's a crazy world. I'm now a mother. I have a 4-year-old,
My God,
and
he's
he is,
4.
yeah, he turns five this year.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
I know time flies. I live in a city in New Zealand. I'm from New Zealand called Dunedin, and I have a startup, a video game studio, and I'm working on my first game. And
Mm.
that's pretty much what I'm doing now.
Yeah, can you elaborate more on what you're working on in terms of their startup studio? I love the name. It's
Thank
amazing.
you. Yeah, I was thinking of like a catchy name that was like really cool, but also kind of inclusive, with like the colors, LGBTQ and stuff. So I really, yeah, I'm really proud of Chromatic Pie. It's
It's
called
so
Chromatic
cute
Pie.
because you're like, Get a slice of this chromatic
Yeah,
pie." It's like this
it's so,
rainbowy, I'll tag it, you
yeah,
guys. It's like this rainbowy, cute, very inclusive, accessible, focused
yes,
game studio
absolutely.
startup. So, can you tell me about that? Because that is really cool. It's really awesome to see women kind of be a part of startups and
Mhm.
especially in game development. Like, that is, how has that
Yeah,
been?
so I guess I'll start off, when I became a mother, I was streaming full time at that point, and I had a bunch of time off, and everyone knows how much time off can affect your streaming income and whatnot. So I kind of thought, I was like, you know what, I want more of a stable income. Um, I play all my games on the hardest difficulty, so my
It's true.
brain went to like went to game design. And so I just started like dissecting the games I was playing, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to try break into the game development industry and the community side. And so I did that, and I got picked up by A44 Games. And so I moved myself and my son to a different city away from my family, which was very hard. Um,
Yeah.
but I did it, and it paid off anyhow. So they actually offered me a position as producer. So I wore two hats. And so when I started becoming a producer for this video game, it's an unannounced IP still. Um, I learned more about game development, how the different departments talk to one another and communicate, the production pipeline, and it was just so intriguing to me, and I was just so like enthralled by it. Come COVID-19, the first wave that hit the world, a bunch of people were laid off their jobs and whatnot, and I was one of those people, unfortunately. So it was sort of after then I was like, you know what? Uh, I am such a creative person. I have just this love for game design, and I've played countless, I don't even want to know how many hours. I'm sure you're the same. It's like how many hours do you
Oh
actually
my
spend playing
gosh.
video games?
Yeah.
Anyway, so with my understanding, I was like, you know what? There's a position in the industry, especially in New Zealand, for a studio that's inclusive and wants to focus on accessibility, especially being a woman as well. And I was like, you know what? This is very scary. I feel vulnerable, but I'm gonna do it. And
Yeah,
had
like
a game
I'll do it
idea.
myself then.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like
I was
big
just like,
I'll do it myself energy.
yeah. Yeah, I don't even know if that's like an ego thing. I think it was just like being a woman in game dev sucks. And so I was like, you know what? I think I have networked around the industry pretty well. I have a kick-ass game idea. So I was just like, why the heck not? Like,
Yeah. Oh my
you know,
gosh. And that's so cool that you feel so empowered to do that because it's really daunting to start anything up because there are so many like regulations you have to go by and all this stuff that keeps you from actually focusing on the thing you want to make. Can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit about the New Zealand scene and just game development out there? Because it is so cool to see how tight knit it actually is.
That surprised me actually is how well connected everyone is. It's nuts. So New Zealand, it's a growing sector in our country. There's actually a lot of indie startup studios now, and quite a few popular ones that are more concentrated on mobile games. So there's a few studios here that do really well in mobile games. But yeah, like for me personally, I use Twitter a lot. And so I would like put a tweet out there saying, hey, like I'm trying to get to know more producers in the industry or more community managers. And there's just so many people out there that saw it. And then I talked to them, and I made a really good friend in Wellington. Her name's Calliope. I don't know if she'll watch this, but I love her to pieces. And it's just and she knows all these people that I know, and it's just everyone knows each other to some degree.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know what though, the game development scene in New Zealand, you know, and across the globe, it needs a lot of work. It needs a lot of rehashing, and it is unfortunate that a lot of the rehashing is because we're talking about our traumas and the experiences we've got.
Yeah.
So the progress is good, but it's progress that doesn't come without a cost.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
so I'm wanting to start something that is, fresh and starts from a solid foundation. I'm very business oriented. So it's not just about making a good game. I really want to build like a good business from the ground up so people don't get trauma from,
Sure.
from working in my studio or working with me. So that's what's really important to me. Yeah.
That's amazing. I think that just goes to show how, especially our generation of streamer, how entrepreneur mindset we are. Just like we've decided to branch out and get more creative in the space. And it's really cool to see you kind of go into the game developer side. I've tried a million different things through the pandemic. Is there anything that you can give in terms of advice for someone who might want to do a startup, or maybe is a woman and feels like they have a great idea, but they're not sure what to do?
I think throughout the years, I've sensed that, being vulnerable and putting yourself out there, or even like thinking internally about something that makes you feel vulnerable, there's actually a lot of power that can come from that if you just allow it to happen. If you take that step forward, you learn a lot about yourself, and it is very empowering. I feel that now I'm not so scared of being vulnerable when it comes to making bold decisions, because I know that I gain from the situation. So I would say, yeah, empower yourself within the vulnerability that you feel of, changing your career to something else, or veering slightly like I did from video game content creation to game development. Life is just too short, I think, to like stay in your little box. You need to break out of the box.
Do you have any tips or tricks for being a mom and doing all of
Oh my
this
gosh.
as well?
Holy
That's a
moly.
whole other
So
episode too, by the way. Like we could go on about what you can do with being a mom, but
oh my gosh. Yeah, Mav, it's so I was a solo parent. I'm not anymore. Oh my God. So I was a solo parent for about 3 years. And so breaking into game development in New Zealand meant moving cities, moving away from my support system. I think that was really brave and courageous of me, but I felt like, I had no choice. If I want to take control of my life and get what I want out of it, there are some sacrifices that you have to make. And so being a mum, full time with no babysitters and whatnot, and working 40 plus hours a week, it was straining for the both of us, but we didn't know any different. And so it just became our normal,
yeah,
and we valued the time that we had together. I was tested a lot, a lot of solo parents. I know, I think
for a
you've
long
been there
time.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is very testing on your resilience and your strength. I am now like the most patient like mother ever. Like I've just built up that patience patience tolerance because I had to.
Yeah.
But tips, I think just practicing being kind to yourself. My mom was a solo parent. She raised myself and my sister by herself, and she chose to stay by her parents and in her safe bubble, which is fine. That's what she decided to do. But for me, I know that she didn't chase her dreams. She didn't, go after what she really wanted. And so I sort of, looked at that and thought, I want to be the one that chases after what I want. And so it is hard, but I think it is extremely rewarding. But yeah, we all make the best decisions for ourselves, I think. So it's,
Yeah, no, I think there's like I feel like even in our age group, right? Like we have a choice to do the safe thing, right? Like to do the safe thing, just get the 9 to 5. And I think, going into content creation when we did, and anyone now who's going into it, it's a lot like you have to want to do it because you're the boss. Like you are the person that decides if it's going to succeed or not. We have some pretty ambitious goals, you and I think that that's something that I've really appreciated about you. Anytime I see you popping up in my feed, I know that there's something going on, or you're working on something, you're tinkering it out there.
I'm always brewing something. I'm like, I'm one of those people that can't just be stagnant. I can't just like be still. I don't know what it is.
I wish, because I'm just like, what if I created another show? And then what about this? And what about that? And then what if I did stuff with the Xbox? And then like, oh, what about a game?
Yes.
And like, there's just so many things you can do. And once you get over that major hurdle of creating something by yourself, then there's just like this door that stays open, and you're like, oh, this is endless. Like I could do anything now. So amazing. And I cannot wait for your game to launch and to see what you guys got going on.
Thank you. Yeah, so my partner now, he's in the game development industry, and he's Dave Oshray, and so he does a bunch of retro video games at New Blood. Yeah, meeting him has sort of opened up more doors too. We have common interests. He runs his own studio, and so we kind of like bounce off ideas.
That's so
It's
cool.
just
A
so
cute little dev couple, just, running your business in the game space.
Yeah, like yesterday we went and looked at physical spaces for Chromatic Pie, and
That's so exciting.
just like a little 2 to 3 person space, like for me and any, the next person that might come along. Really, like I love working from home in this area, but there's something about like going into an environment where other people are working, like a professional
Oh
space
yeah.
that gets the juices flowing, And so all these things were coming and all these possibilities, and I was like, I know how much work I will get done here.
Well,
But
because traveling for games and covering games and reviewing games and testing games and going to studios, like you've seen some of the biggest studios, and you've seen like, the places and things. And so I can only imagine how it feels to find a space for your startup and your business, because that's a huge deal. Like that is another rent. Like that is a big process.
Yeah. Yes. So, yeah. I'm kind of throwing up the idea like, do we invest like this money? These are the kind of startup decisions you have to make. Like, do you want to invest that money into a physical space or into the game? And it's like,
You're like, don't
you
make me
have to
choose. Don't
Yeah,
make me
I want
choose.
both, please. But yeah, so yeah, juggling being a mum amongst career and game dev is it's challenging. There's just no other industry I'd rather be in.
Yeah.
Personally.
And I'm so excited. There are more people becoming parents. Everyone is having a baby right now, it seems like.
Oh my God. Yeah, when I had my son, I was like, there was only like 2 or 3 other women that I knew of at the time in, the Twitch scene that kind of had babies around the time I did. And now it's like everyone's having babies.
It must just be like the few years in, and then everyone just decides to pop a baby because the pandemic's over, so it's time to hang out.
Yeah.
Speaking of pandemic,
Yes.
how has that been for you? You obviously,
I'm like,
Lori's
there we
eyes just got
go.
real wide. You obviously had a toddler, I had a baby at the beginning of it. You had a toddler baby at the beginning of
Yeah.
it. And now he's going to school. So
Oh my
wild.
God, so I was the producer for code, so for programming it at A44. Yeah, eventually we all had to start working from home. There was a little bit of stress around that, and the government brought in this scheme where specific companies could qualify for paying their employees to not work. It's more complicated than that, but essentially that's what we were gonna do because
Mm.
they knew I had a child to look after. And so we tried to do that. And so I stopped working and I was like, oh my gosh, like they're very nice. They understand my situation. I was really happy to work anyway, but this is the route we mutually decided to go down. A few weeks later, in the lockdown, it turns out that we didn't qualify for that. So then I had to come back to
Oh,
work.
no.
That was like, it's whatever.
You're just
Like,
like planning and then, nope.
yeah, like I was starting to do Twitch streams and like making puzzles. And then I was like, okay, well, I guess I gotta go back to work now, whatever. But yeah, so daycare and kindies and whatnot were closed. Yeah, I had my son while trying to work, and he was 2, I think, at
Oh,
the time.
gosh.
Yeah, so
They're
he
wild. 2 is
needs.
wild. Mine's about to turn 2, and
Yeah.
that is wild
Yeah, and
age.
so like they need your attention. They're like, beginning to like run and just, get into everything. And so yeah, so
Everything.
I was trying to work while attending my son. And so being a producer, you have to pay attention. There's a lot of meetings. It's like meetings all day every day. And it was really disheartening because it was affecting how people saw me in my role. What ended up
Having to
happening was
apologize all the time, right? Like, I'm so sorry. I'm chasing the baby,
yeah.
which you
Yeah,
shouldn't
yeah,
be apologizing
yeah,
for.
I know. It's just there's things that are out of your control, and
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't a reflection of my work ethic or my character or my professional skills. It was just my situation. But what ended up happening was I was made redundant. So there was a bunch of us in the company that were made redundant. I won't get into details because there's legal stuff surrounding it.
Sure.
But I went to a lawyer and I fought it for reasons.
Yeah.
I ended up winning, so yay!
That's
It's
awesome.
great. Yeah, but going through like that
Oh my gosh,
with
during a
lawyers
pandemic and everything. That's so
and
stressful.
yeah, oh my God, it really was. It took the life out of me. But yeah, it was after that point where I was very disheartened about what had happened. And then I was like, you know what? Like, I'm just gonna go my own way. I was
I'm
kind of
gonna do it
like,
myself.
ooh, it's
Forget
like
it.
I don't like this. I don't like what happened. But I think a few months later, I was headhunted to be community manager at Rocketworks.
Wow.
And so I had to shift cities to go do that job because I thought, you know what, I can put Chromatic Pie on hold for a bit for this role. Um, you know, it was the most money I've ever been paid in my life.
Yep.
So it was very, very enticing to me to do that.
To
And to
save
move
or like
to,
work there and see how that goes and kind of
yeah,
like
to,
sit on
to
the
meet new
idea of chromatic
people.
pie and really
Yep.
plan it out.
Exactly. So it was like a road bump for me, but I knew that I wanted to try it. And
Yeah.
so I kind of went in like, I'm going to give this a try. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. So I did end up leaving on good terms. But I ended up leaving because I started saying, you know what, I really want Chromatic Pie to go forward. Because
Yeah.
yeah, because we went through another lockdown and then I was in that same situation. And that's when I quit Rocketworks. I was like, I don't want to do this again. I don't want, I don't want to do the working from home thing. And yeah, so I left. But
Aw.
yeah, and I met Dave through that job, my partner. So,
That
it
worked
all worked
out.
out.
It's really
Yeah.
it's cool to have someone to bounce ideas off of. Like I can totally relate to that. Like Mr. Mav is amazing and like to be able to talk to someone who understands gaming in the space and things like that is really empowering, especially as a
It is.
woman and having someone that is, knows what they're
Yeah.
doing a little bit. You're like, okay. But sometimes you're like, honey, I don't want your ideas. I'm good.
Sometimes
Sometimes
No,
you're like,
I got this.
you got your own stuff. I got mine. That's good. We're good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to go back a little bit. But first, I'm going to ask the question that everyone gets asked here. Nintendo or Sega growing up? What was your...
Sega.
Really? Let's go.
Okay, wait.
I was Sega
Okay, wait a
too.
second. I have something special for you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Oh,
let me put
let's
my headphones
go.
back on.
Yeah.
This is my Sega I had growing up. I have the controllers back there, and I even have the games
Wow.
on my shelf.
There it
Yeah,
is. That's amazing.
yep, it has Sonic built in on it because
Wow.
these came with built in. So this is a Master System too.
That's
But
amazing. So
yeah,
Sega. It really is
yes.
so split. And I think I've only had one person that is too young to pick on the
Oh,
show. I'm like, oh, congrats. You're the first person that does not know what I'm talking about. That's amazing.
I grew up watching my dad play Doom, Half-Life, and Quake. So I would sit on his lap and he'd be at the computer playing this really like kind of scary game, and I
Loud, heavy
loved it.
metal, scary game.
I loved it so much. I was like looking at the little Doom face, and like, when he'd get hurt and so I can still visualize the room and like the computer and everything. So he had like a Nintendo Game Boy, whatnot, but we only played on that every so often. But we played on the Sega, PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. Then I went Xbox 360 after that point.
Yep.
Um, I just didn't, the PS3 just wasn't like doing it for me. I was like, I like the Xbox 360. This looks cool. Just so many games that I like just holds like, so, those games that just really
Totally.
did something to you when you were
They're
growing
so
up.
good growing up, but playing them now, they're awful.
Yes, like I
You're like, I don't
didn't.
remember
Yes,
it being like this. Cool,
this
awesome.
is so janky. How did I not see this? Yeah. I went to boarding school when I was 15, and I would take my PlayStation Portable and watch movies on it. I would like burn
Oh,
movies and like put on. I had Ratatouille on it.
is
So cool.
boarding school
Um,
common out there? Like, what was that like?
yeah. So yeah, when I went to boarding school, I was like, oh no, video games. So like I took my PSP. The bus ride was about 5 hours because it was in a different city.
Gosh.
My mum was like, she was sick of me. I was a naughty teenager. She's like, go away. We've got a lot of like Catholic schools. It's mostly Catholic and Christian schools here that have them. But the one that I went to was demolished a few years ago. So I don't know what the state of them is like now. Catholic boarding school means, going to church every Sunday, praying before every meal, going to Catholic school, praying before every classroom, a lot of praying, and I'm not very religious myself, so it was very like forced for me.
Did you start like making jokes out of it? Were you like, oh,
Um,
we've got to
I
pray?
mean, yeah, so we had a dedicated class called religious studies. I would just like,
Oh God.
no,
Yeah.
we would read the Bible and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I respect it now, but I was pretty disrespectful with that.
Sure, when you're like a
Yeah.
teenager and you're like getting into some trouble, sounds like.
Yeah.
Were you into any like extracurricular activities or like sports or anything? Like what were you, if you were to like describe yourself as a kid at school, are you like the popular kid? Were you like the shy one? Were you like the weird?
I,
Like what were you?
I was always in the popular group, but I would get kicked out. So
Yes.
I was the girl that would be like in the popular group. I would do something, maybe make out with a boy that no one wanted me to make out with or something, and like get kicked out.
Just a rebel, a rebel.
And then because I was friends with everyone, that's in my nature. Like I would just go sit with other people that I was friendly with. But yeah, getting kicked out of a popular group, it stings a little bit.
Now, did you
But
go
yeah,
to university or anything? Like what is that like out there for post like grade school?
I finished school when I was 17. So I didn't actually finish what we call high school. So that's age 14 to 18. So I fell ill and had a lot of time off, and I was at boarding school. So I kind of just left. Me and my mum mutually agreed. But after then, I went and studied. I went and
Please,
studied
mom.
travel and tourism. Yeah. I studied travel and tourism for a
Oh,
while because I love traveling, and I mean I think that shows in how much traveling I did
you were
once
always
I
over
became a
here.
yeah,
It felt like you
I
were
was.
always in the States.
I was like the only like New Zealand like content creator like everywhere. I was like, hey. Everyone's like, oh, your accent, where are you from? So I studied that for a little bit. And then I decided that, it just wasn't for me. In my teenage, sort of early adult years, I struggled with finding what I really wanted to do. And it wasn't until I saw I was going through a tough time and I started watching gameplay videos on YouTube. I had an Xbox 360, but the PS4 and Xbox One had just come out. So I was watching like the new games and whatnot. And so I found the Rad Brad. He really connected with his audience and he made me feel very entertained. I loved his gameplay walkthroughs and I was like, it's like, you know what? I want to do this. And I tell you what, Mav, a few years ago, the Rad Brad followed me on Twitter. And
Stop. And you completely
and
had like early.
this full circle moment. And so, him and I follow each other now and we've talked and it's just things like that make you feel like, you're doing the right thing, you're on the right path and
So
something neat to
so
share.
how did you start? Did you start streaming with Destiny?
The
Yeah,
first Dying Light, I was streaming
that's
that
right.
directly from the PlayStation. So watching the Red Bread, I decided to get a loan. Don't do this, people. Don't do that.
Wait. Let's
I
go.
get a
Get a
loan.
loan.
Mess up your credit score. It's fine. So I got a loan to get myself a computer. I guess I was just like
That's
going all
awesome though.
in.
Yeah, you were
You
like
know,
you already had your business hat on. You had no idea.
I started on
Oh,
YouTube.
it's a
So the first
garbage
game,
camera.
I know.
It's so
Excuse
bad.
me.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so I started with South Park: The Stick of Truth.
Oh
So
no.
I uploaded it to YouTube. It doesn't exist. I removed it. You cannot find it.
Uh.
But that's how I started. And so I started talking to friends and they were like, hey, why don't you check out Twitch? And I didn't know what Twitch was.
Yeah.
I was watching lots of Daisy at
Mhm.
the time on YouTube. And so I found a Daisy community on Twitch. And I really made a home in that person's community and I made friends and I'm still friends with some of them now. You form those special connections. And yeah, and then I started streaming and some people from that community came over to watch. And back when people paid attention to like who they followed on Twitch, I don't know if people do
They used to
anymore.
show it. I don't know if people, for those that are kind of new to Twitch, they used to show who you were following on Twitch and like who were following you. Now you can kind of find it if you like tab around, but like you can't really see what people like who people are following and things like that, which is interesting.
Yeah. When I first started streaming, I didn't have a camera. Like, I didn't use my camera because I was very shy. It's when you stream on the PlayStation 4, you have like this small section of gameplay and then this like chat to the side.
Oh yeah, the
Do
whole
you remember?
black bar with the chat and then your little
Yeah.
camera. Back when you could just
Yeah. So,
stream on console and you actually got your own little front page on Twitch back in the
oh
day.
my gosh.
It
Yeah.
really changed a lot of people's lives, I think. Like
Yeah.
50
That's,
and Crafty and all of those people. Just streaming on the
yeah.
console is amazing.
And so, yeah, the time of day that I would stream, I would quite often be, when I started streaming Destiny, I would quite often be on that front page. And I think, yeah, as you
Yeah.
said, it really helped like propel a bunch of us to garnering our own Destiny communities. And, me, you, Miss Team KK, Shifty Five, we would play together, would do raids together, and there's a lot of collaboration. I think it was so magical,
Yeah.
when we were all like kind of similar sized
Yeah,
streamers.
we're all like new, and there was actually quite a bit of women in the directory, which was
Yeah.
amazing, which I'm starting to see more of, and a lot of them are new, and it's kind of cool to see a lot of women actually playing Destiny again. So fingers crossed with Witch Queen that they just stay.
I might get into Witch Queen. I
Ah!
am like I'm like, do I? Because, they're bumping up the light level. And I was like, oh, don't tempt me.
Well, if you do, you got to come play. Snackless and I do ladies' night every Friday. So
Every
it's like
Friday?
every
Oh,
Friday.
that's
Yeah. It's
nice.
like 7 in the evening on my time. So like,
Yeah, that's doable. That's Saturday for me, so that's easy. I'd love to. That would be
yeah.
really
Oh my gosh, totally. Like we did Iron Banner night and we had an extra spot. A geek joined. It was amazing. It was just like,
nice.
it was
Yeah.
so cool to have so many people from the different parts of Destiny together. So I didn't even know about you going to boarding school. I feel like I would have asked you that or would have learned about that, which makes sense because Lori's thing, if you ever get to watch her stream, if you're ever privileged to be able to catch her live, she tells you that you rock and there's like a very like cute sunflowery metal undertone kind of vibe. It's very like happy, but like a lot of
Yeah.
energy.
There's like a little bit of gravel in the voice, but
Yeah.
like not too much.
You're like you're like frolicking in a field and your little daisy's like screaming metal. It's amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so glad that I got to catch you and got to chat with you. And anytime you want to come back on to talk anything, let me know because I would love to have you back on to talk games or talk Chromatic Pie whenever you guys are wanting to launch stuff. Like, let me know.
Yeah.
And we'll do something really fun for that.
Yeah, I'd love that. You can find me
Yeah.
on at Loriipops on Twitter, Instagram, Two Eyes Loriipops. Yeah, I'm everywhere on the internet with that handle. So come find me and
Yeah.
follow me.
And go follow Chromatic Pie at Chromatic
Thank
Pie.
you.
It's in Lori's info section too. I'll also have it posted in the info of this episode. And we're going to make sure that we support Lori in her endeavors. And thank you so much. And go follow her, go love her. And if you find her, tell her I sent you. And thank you so much, Lori, for joining today.
Thank you, Mav, for having me. Thanks everyone for listening.